almost a year ago.
Oh, newbies.
Oh no, it'll be a little bit less than that. But it's my son Iggy's just turned 1, and the last time I hosted, it would have been when I came back from my first bit of parental leave. Yeah.
Wow.
I think both you and Andy were both not available, so I was flying solo, and I'd literally just come back to work. It's all a bit like,
but it was all good. I can't believe it's been a year. Happy birthday,
Iggy. yeah, little man. So I guess I should sort of explain a little bit who I am, maybe. So I'm Jake. I do a lot of things behind the scenes in Pour and Sip, so you don't see my face so much. But I've been working at Master of Malt for, I think, something like 13 years, doing practically every role you can imagine. So, I've been around Master of Malt and Pour and Sip and making all those things happen. Yeah. Now you get to listen to how eloquent I am as well.
I was just giving you the space to...
just letting me die there slowly.
Yeah, we got a great lineup tonight. If you haven't already looked in your boxes, then why are they not open? So yeah, hi to Pour and Sippers old and new. If you are new here, then have fun, ask questions, get stuck in. Everyone's going to be really friendly on the chat. I think all the comments are coming through already. So many comments already.
Yes, yeah. People saying, oh, Steve Coleman Winners has got his database. He's still trying to fill the gaps in, I think. Peter Gilmore saying good evening. David Norcross, Greg Book, Richard Wingrove. Lots of people saying good evening. Hello all. Nice summer evening. Good evening to all of you. So what have we got coming up, Jess, tonight? What's the order of business?
The order of business is we're kicking it off with a French whiskey, Haute Glace, which is how you say it. We've been practicing. I'm chatting to the ambassador Bill about that, who, if you were tuned in last month, was also here to chat Brigladdy. So we've got a double measure of Bill. Then we are moving on to the Isle of Haarach, and Jake will be chatting that through with Ken and Joanne. And then finishing... Strathearn. I'm going ahead of myself. Jake's talking about the Strathearn with Ken and Joanne. And then I am finishing off with the Isle of Haarach with head distiller Norman. And then we'll run you through the Glenlossie and Redbreast at the end. But that is 5 drams, and that's quite a lot of whiskey, so don't feel like you have to sip them all tonight.
Indeedy. Right.
I have the list so ready, and I still managed to get it wrong.
Should we bring Bill in?
Absolutely.
How you guys doing?
Hello.
I was going to say long time no see. Yeah, literally long time no see. Perfect. Thanks for having me back on again.
Yeah, can't wait. But for a very different whiskey this time, which is quite fun.
Yeah, it's different values in the same sort of.
Yeah, for he's gone. Our first technical glitch.
Bill,
I'm back. Sorry for that. Apologies. I'm going to have to sit on the stairs. My internet's been an absolute pain. But how are you?
Really good. Well, the lighting's great there. So
yeah, a lot brighter than my spare room. But yeah, I'm having a bit of an issue with internet, so I'm hotspotting on the phone and hiding in the hallway. But anyway, I've got whiskey, so I'm all sorted.
Dedication. For anyone who wasn't here last month, it'd be great to have a run through of, what you do, how you got into the whiskey industry.
Yeah, of course.
Stuff. How about you,
Yeah. So it was kind of by accident, I would say. Kind of growing up, obviously loving whiskey is kind of a bit of a stereotype, but it generally was something that I really did enjoy. And naturally, I kind of went into engineering. So I was studying in Aberdeen, as every engineer does. And then I was going to go work offshore. And at the time, I was actually working in a bar just while I was studying. And I saw all the offshore workers coming back. And I was a bit like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. So I finished off my studies, and then I carried on working in the bar. And then I ended up working in a hotel bar in London. And then from there, it was really good. And then I kind of jumped naturally onto the brand side of things, because most of the stuff we do in the bar is chatting to guests, consumers, giving experiences. And then with my love for whiskey, when the Bruichladdich job came up, I was like, yes, perfect. And then I've been there for a few years now, and then obviously taken on Hautes Glass as well. So it's been great. It's nice to have like 2 brands as well, which is good. So very good. Two distilleries to constantly visit.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, were you saying you were in France quite recently?
Yeah, I was at the distillery. God, it would have been this time last year. Actually, it's around this week, which is great. It's the first time I've been. We kind of relaunched. The distillery opened up in 2009, and we'll talk a bit more about the farm. But we kind of relaunched in the UK. We did have our Vulson, which is like an eau de vie rye. So we have different products. I think you'll sell all of them as well. But we launched that in the UK, and then COVID hit, and then they kind of just pulled all the stock back. And after COVID, they were like, do you know what? Let's rebrand. Let's get the whiskey in there as well, the single malt, and we'll just launch it all together. And then that's what I was a part of last year. So we had a big launch last year, and then I was at the distillery meeting not just the distillers, but meeting the farmers, which is really cool. I spent most of my time just meeting the farmers, which is nice.
Sounds idyllic.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful place. I mean, if you ever get the chance, it's 900 meters up from Grenoble. So it's in a little valley called the Trier. And it's beautiful, really beautiful.
So given that it relaunched like fairly recently, I feel like it's probably a brand that maybe like, you know, diehard Scotch drinkers or just whiskey drinkers in general might not have heard of, including me, I have to say. So I'd love to hear it from you, just like the story behind the brand, because it opened in 2009, but so it's been going for a while, and it was the first organic whiskey distillery?
Yeah, so funny enough, when we say French whiskies of whiskey from France, people kind of assume there's only like 4 or 5 of them. There's about 80 odd whiskey distilleries in France. It's quite insane. They have different areas as well that are kind of essentially same sort of rules as like Champagne, and even for Scotch whiskey, there's like very much regional rules as well. The Trier area around the Alps isn't, so there's no sort of kind of standard that we have to follow.
Okay.
And it was the first organic whiskey to come from France, but it's not just organic barley. The whole thing's organic. The distillery's organic. The farm's organic. It started off by a gentleman called Frederick Revol. He actually worked in Paris in like the city in terms of work in finance, and his family had the farm, and they basically passed the farm on to him. And I think he got to the point where, I live in London and I'm feeling it more so than ever. I think he got to the point where he's like, do you know what? I'm pretty much done living in the city. I'm going to move out. I've got this farm and I'm going to, start doing what I want. And his studies is actually, he's an anagromist. So which means it's the study of grains, wheat, spelt, rye, barley, of course. And and then from there, he kind of was quite obsessed. Like he's an obsession with whiskey, but he's an obsession with the kind of the raw material of whiskey, not just the idea of place and water and how old is it and what cask has it been in. He's obsessed with that raw material that makes whiskey, which of course is barley, rye, wheat, etc. And from there, he went to the farm, and these 19 farms, he's one of them, the Vulson farm. The other 18 farms, it's all organic. It's been organic for centuries. There's no sort of record of ever using fertilizer in that area. So it's, in a nerdy way, it's actually quite amazing imagining all the nutrients and the nutrients that are actually in the soil, all that flavor that's in there that's been building up over time. We're planting rye halfway through the season to regenerate the soil. And from there, basically, it was pretty common sense that he's going to open up a distillery. So himself and one of his close friends who actually used to work at Lefroy, funny enough, who is a distiller, Fred does not know how to distill. He knows, but he needs someone to come in and do it. So him and his close friend set up, and he deals with all the grains, and his friend deals with the distilling side of things. And in 2009, they made the first whiskey, and it's been aging ever since. And we have a few products coming out, and obviously the one that you're drinking just now is the Indigene, which is, I would say, it's like the taste of our distillery, if that makes sense.
So this is like Domaine de Hautes.
Domaine of Hautes Glass, yeah, that's like the farm. Yeah, and then Hautes Glass is the whiskey. Do you want me to break down the whiskey and describe section by section of it?
Yes, please.
Yeah. It's just, I feel it's a bit of a rabbit hole sometimes because there's so much to talk about. So in here, this is 100% malted barley. Of course, it's organic. I don't want to say organic again because you're going to leave this just thinking organic. It's 100% malted barley that's been grown across 18 different farms. So there's 19 in total. One farm we didn't get barley from, we got rye from. So it's 18 different farms, one of them being our farm. In terms of barley type, it's kind of traditional two-row barleys, but we actually have a heritage barley in there, which is very close to, say, beer barley, which is like a 6-row barley. It's a heritage barley from that area too. Now, when we harvest it in, we have our own malting floor, so everything gets done there. After we malt it, we actually use our own yeast strain. So instead of buying distiller's yeast, we actually cultivated a local yeast, and we use that yeast strain to basically do our ferments in it. So fermentation time, I think, is looking about 140, 150 hours at points, sometimes more. A lot of this is because it's wild yeast, we're kind of like seeing what happens. Sometimes it's a bit inconsistent. Sometimes it's fast acting, sometimes it's slow, but average about 140 to 150 hours fermentation time.
For context, what is like a more standard fermentation time?
I would say an industry standard is about 70 to 80.
Okay, so
around that. Yeah. I mean, it really depends, obviously, what kind of flavors you're wanting to get out, but I would say industry stands about 70 to 80. From there, we actually use these old alembic stills, which are essentially like kind of old cognac stills. Obviously came to the French routine. And then to heat up the stills, we don't use steam jackets. We actually use wood from Chartreuse because we're very close to Chartreuse. So we use the wood lodge for our wood source, which is a fully sustainable source for us. And what happens is when you're cooking, basically when you're boiling your alcohol directly underneath with wood, you're kind of getting a Maillard reaction inside the still, where basically these like sugars and the actual liquid itself starts to transform in different flavors. And then after it's distilled and it comes off, we basically put it in a mixture of different casks. So we actually use really old cognac casks. Hautes glass is a pot of Remy Cointreau, so I'm not going to give you any money to guess which cognac it is, but it was really old cognac cask. Pretty much the idea is that because we want to talk about the barley, we're not going to just shove it in a sherry cask because, yeah, it tastes delicious, but we want to make sure this barley has no place to hide, like the actual taste. It can't hide its flavor in a sherry cask or a red wine cask. We're using old cognac casks that basically don't have a lot of flavor in them. So what's going to happen is that they're essentially just a vessel for the liquid over the course of 3 to 10 years. And then after this, we cuvee it. So this is a cuvee of liquid between 3 to 10 years in different casks. Armagnac casks, old cognac casks, some wine casks, and some really old red wine casks as well.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot. And I tell you what, that's probably about 5% of it. I was cautiously looking at the time on the top left. I was like, oh, I need to be careful how much I say.
Shall we have a look at sort of the initial reaction that's in the room?
Everyone's got stuck in apart from us. I feel like.
David Woolcock's talking about whiskey made by technology, and there's not a lot of that on here tonight. It's we've got let's have a look. Peter is asking if you're in the naughty step.
Honestly, to be fair, my dog just came up and looked at me and walked away, so I feel like I'm getting judged by him as well. So.
Clive's getting it's very light orange essence, just a hint of Christmas cake. Stuart McGregor getting apples, pears, sort of reminding of like a Geneva, some cereal notes, some tea notes. Alex Battersby, very orangey. It's absolutely lovely. Peter Gilmore's getting some stone fruit and some zingy fruit. Lots more notes.
Yeah,
Andrew's getting some Calvados. Lots coming through. Yeah,
citrusy dram seems to be the.
Yeah, I'm getting like, for me, it's really kind of, it's weird to say, but it tastes clean. Does that make sense? Like it's like a very clean spirit. There's not too much there. It's very crisp in that way, and it's also, for me, it's this grass, just really grassy, and like the taste is really funky. I've had organic whiskies, but it's kind of nice to have an organic whiskey that tastes organic. Like it's really funky and unique. It's got its own style. It doesn't taste like an organic barley that's been in a cask for 10 years and it comes out and there we go. It tastes like whiskey, but it's organic. There's something to it. It's got its own little house style and its own taste.
Do you reckon that's like the funky yeast that no one else?
Yeah, I would say it's a mix of everything because we are doing a full maturation there as well. Because we basically digged into the grounds where it's all the chalk around, and we did our aging in there. So average, like our angel share can go up to about 4 to 5% sometimes. And then in winter, it drops down to the kind of standard in Scotland, it's like 2 to 3, stuff like that. Obviously not as high as Kentucky and the Caribbean, but it really fluctuates quite a lot.
It's matured below ground.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So we build it into the ground, our warehouses, and then we leave all our cask there.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like French influence, isn't there? Here, like
massive
cellar maturation, sort of the way that the casks are being, almost blended and diluted during maturation.
Yeah, it really is, and it's quite nice to see that aspect of it as well. And also like the constant like using eau de vie instead of new makes. They're always eau de vie, and it comes out, and that's the way they treat it. They treat it's almost like cognac in that way. How they treat it, and they break it down and treat every single spirit differently. And seeing Fred work his way through it, on average, the Indigene has over 100 different eau de vies in there. That's 100 different distillates. That's a lot.
Various ages as well.
Yeah, different ages, different barleys, different seasons. Like if we're harvesting in different times, it's all different flavors, and there's a consistency there, but it's not going to be consistent because it's organic. It's got that inconsistency, which is entertaining, But when we talk about inconsistency, I'm not going to say you're going to try it one day and it's going to taste like a peat bog. You know what I mean? It's still going to have that, that backbone flavor of Hautes glass, but then that inconsistency will kind of kick in. That sometimes, like with climate change, they'd be like, do you know what? This season, that year, that distillate, really adds this much into it. And we're going to start doing single cask releases as well. So we had a couple rye whiskies back to back of the Episteme range, which is where we get a bit funky and weird. And these rye whiskies, the rye was harvested in the same week, distilled, mashed, aged, same age. They aged right beside each other, not together. But these two ryes, completely different. The only difference was a mile in between the farms. One was grown on Mont, which is on the east side of the valley, and it was super chalky and volcanic, so it kind of tastes like a bit peaty. And then the other one was in like acidic soil, and it tasted completely different. So we're going to do a bit more weird stuff like that, kind of show method to the madness of Fred, I guess, maybe, but or Fred again, as we call him. But yeah,
you need to do like a tasting set with like those side by side and like with all of the differences. Like I feel like they're so amazing, and it like truly, for anyone that had any doubt, like proves how much like where the like fundamental materials are grown has such an impact on it, because barley isn't just barley.
No, definitely. And we found it as well with our rye. We did spelt as well and wheat recently.
What's a spelt whiskey like?
Delicious. It's like biscuit. For me, it was like digestives. It was just it's class. But that only got released in France. Sad times. But I mean, we have a bottle in the Remy Contro office, so if you ever find yourself in London, just swing by.
I live in London, so we'll be there.
But yeah.
We've got a question. There's lots more tasting notes as well. Where was I up to? Real Boingo was getting some spring flowers. Ali C mentioned a kind of fennel aniseedy note, which I was getting certainly sort of at the beginning. Steve Coleman Williams is asking about the age, saying it seems quite fresh and young, which is no bad thing, but just interested.
The ages are 3 years to 10 years. But I mean, because it's 2009, as we develop, we might start doing a 10-year, we might do a 15-year, we might do something really old in the future, but it's just time. We have to wait and see.
Do you not have any age statements out
so far? To be honest with you, I think we run in full transparency, which makes my job an absolute dream. But we run full transparency, so we'll tell you what it is. We have a QR code on the bottle. You scan it, and it will literally tell you the harvest is, what year, how old it is, how many distillates, and what's the average age. But we'll do like 3 to 10. We won't be like, it's around 7. We'll be like, nah, here's the minimum age, and that's the maximum age that's in it.
That's pretty cool. Is something I feel like we haven't touched on is like the location of this distillery?
Yes. True. Actually, I didn't even mention that. God, that's probably the most beautiful part about it. It's like 900 meters up from Grenoble, so south France, kind of West Alps. So I keep forgetting the movie, but there's a movie that was recently filmed around the distillery where she's been accused for her husband falling out the window.
The Anatomy of a Fall.
That's it. That's filmed right beside our distillery. So if you watch that movie, that's the terroir. I mean, not people falling out the window, don't. But like the actual hills and everything like that was filmed very close to us. So it's 900 meters up, and then as you go up, you literally enter into a valley, and it's stunning. I don't know if you have ever been to like Yosemite in California. When you go through the tunnel and you come out, you're like, oh God, this is just a massive valley just surrounded by mountains. It's kind of that same aspect. But yeah, it's really, really beautiful location.
Was there, I mean, that seems like maybe it would be a bit difficult to get supplies and things there. Like what was the thinking behind?
I think to be honest with you, everything that we get is kind of from there. I think once we got all the machinery up there and we built the distillery, that's kind of it. And then it's just, I think the drivers, to be fair, they've got some courage to to drive all our whiskey down. But that's really it. It's not hard. The roads are good. I mean, it's really fine. There's not much issues. And
I guess that's the beauty. They're using everything local.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, if there's any issues, then I'm to be honest with you, I'll probably ask our distillery team and see if anything they come across, and I can send it to you guys. You can send it to everyone watching, because I'm sure they've probably got some stories. Because over winter the snow is ridiculous, so a lot of them just basically get snowed into their house and just wait for like a month. It's really intense. Yeah.
I assume people working in the distillery must live in walking distance.
yeah, pretty much. A lot of them are based down in Grenoble, but we have like a sort of a brand house. So we have like accommodations and little houses around there, and they kind of just walk in. But yeah, to be honest, the team is probably about 6-7 of them, maybe about that. And then you have that's distillers wise, and then when you have the brand team, 11, 12, maybe. Okay. So yeah. It's quite a small team, and I think as it expands, obviously we'll need more people. But
what's the sort of capacity of the distillery? Like, I can't really place how large it would be.
God, I don't want to lie to you and tell you a number, but if you want, I can ask for the volumes that we did in 1 year, and if I get those volumes, I can send to you guys to share with everyone. And I'm not gonna lie to you on a number, but to be honest with you, we did have issues with getting whiskey into the UK, not just with borders, but I mean in terms of volume. So like, for example, as my role, I get samples to do tastings. I struggled to get samples, really struggled. And I think a lot of it as well is because we're harvesting, and it's these farmers kind of decide when they're growing it. They can turn around and be like, nah, we're not going to grow this year. We're actually going to have, I don't know, X, Y, and Z instead of barley. We're like, oh shit, okay, well, we need to source something else to do something else. So it is really low. Indigene will always be there. But when it comes to the epistomes, which is like the more rare, weird, funky stuff that we do, that's very small batches. I think we released one that was only like 350 bottles. So, yeah. But yeah, very, very small capacity, I would say. But I'll get the exact number for you, and you can share it with everyone.
Love to get geeky. Thank you.
Yeah, that's all good.
We've got a really lovely tasting note there, actually, from Steve Con-Williams, saying lots of fresh cut hay meadows thrown into a glass. Perfect for a late summer's eve, which is today, but after a day in the fields, he's saying, which is obviously not today. There's a lot of agricultural feelings from this.
Yeah, it really is. And if you if you meet the farmers, a lot of them will drink it basically just with a celery stick in and ice, and that's it. Yeah. And they'll drink they'll drink like eau de vie, basically new make, and they'll just drink that with celery stick and ice. And I'm like, fair enough.
I don't know, the eau de vie in like a Bloody Mary. That seems like that would work really well.
Well, we have a Vulson, so we have like two styles. The Vulson is like the rye eau de vie that we do, but that's aged like 3 to 7 years because we age it in ceramic and glass and stainless steel, not casks.
Right.
So we do treat it like an eau de vie. But that's like really good for basically any mezcal drink you can think possible. Just replace it with that. It's delicious.
Well, it's funny you say that because Jeremy Anderson has just said it's a bit tequila-ish.
Yeah.
Unusually good.
It's like super vegetal, which kind of reminds people of agave and that kind of flavors from tequila.
Because it's not too heavy on the cask. I think that's like what makes people think of other spirits, because obviously like whiskey usually spends a lot of time in quite powerful casks.
Yeah.
And this is
it's exactly what Clive Hampton said, actually. He's very much enjoying having a whiskey that's not dominated by the cask.
Yeah.
And then we have lots of people getting that clean, grassy character. Dave Wilcock's enjoying his with some manchego. I think there was a cheese.
Nice.
I think there was a cheese pairing on the card, which Somebody said they're disappointed the cheese didn't come in the box as well. So we'll have to work on that.
But to be fair, when you're at the distillery, all you eat is like tartiflette and raclette and stuff like that. You know, all like the typical Alps French food, and just having that with some clean whiskey is delightful.
Carol's saying it's like a wine approach to whiskey, which is spot on. Some discussion going on about some other French whiskies we've tried.
Oh, class.
So
actually, we're doing well on the French whiskey front.
Yeah, I think it's world whiskey in general. You know, I think there's a lot of it's getting a bit more respect. I think, you know, obviously, like you got the big brands in certain countries that really dominate for that, but I think everyone else is starting to kind of, you know, it's education really, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like it's hard to ask someone to take a punt on like 50, 60 quid a bottle of world whiskey that they haven't tried. So stuff like this that you're doing is so ideal for liquids, to really get liquids on lips, to really, you know, sell people that Scotch whiskey is great. I mean, I'm biased. I'm massively biased. But, you know what I mean? There's amazing whiskies out there, for sure.
Yeah. Jake has actually just been corrected.
I have been, yeah.
People didn't want cheese. They wanted Columbar wine.
Ah.
Butchering that word. I'm sorry, everyone. They wanted wine in their whiskey box. Guys, what more do you want?
Yeah. Oh, wow. I mean, I'm sort of looking at the time. I know you've got a sheet bill as well. I feel like we've hardly scratched the surface. It's such
it's so good. I mean, it's okay. Obviously, I stay as long as you guys like, but I don't want to cut into all your total time. But yeah, anything you need, you know what I mean? Just let me know. We kind of work full transparency on our website, so you know it goes.
Yeah, so I guess it's good to know. Yeah, if anyone does buy a bottle from the Pour and Sip store, then they can scan the QR code. Am I right?
Yes, there's a QR code on the back, and then just on a website. I mean, I always, because I'm looking after Bruichladdich and Hautes Glass as well, like the comparisons are pretty much the same. They really are. Like the website is just full transparent in the same way. It's, you know, and if there's anything you need,
you just very similar. Yeah, I think the Isle of Harris, the Hearach, we're going to have later do something similar on their website. So a full breakdown of each batch.
I'm really glad that's in the box. It's effing delicious. Really good.
Up next. Not quite. But yeah, thank you so much, Bill. It's been such a joy again.
Lovely to see you guys again. I'm sure I'll see you next month. But no,
you genuinely might. All right. Thank you very much, Bill.
Thank you for having me again. Lovely to see you.
Oh, you come off, Jake.
Yeah, well, I didn't mean to. Need more practice.
The power of being able to do that, I will never know.
That's a delicious drop.
That was so lovely. I feel like it was perfect for today as well. Like I can just see the sun setting. It just feels so nice. I'm actually on holiday as of tomorrow, so I'm feeling good.
It's a great start to the evening as well.
Exactly.
Nice, refreshing dram. Right.
On to Scotland.
Can we bring in? Yeah, back over to Scotland.
Oh, I'd love to.
Hello to Joanne and hello to Ken. So we have
a
double guest.
Hello again.
So, explain about. I have to say, I'd be clear who I'm talking to maybe sometimes, so you don't both start at the same time. But yeah, maybe starting with Joanne. So we've got a Joe from the Douglas Laing side and the distillery side here, haven't we?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm head of marketing at Douglas Laing, so work across our brand portfolio, and had the pleasure of launching our inaugural release of Strathearn, which has just been a joy to work on. We just launched in April. So yes, hot press.
Wow.
So we have been a blender and bottler, an independent bottler for 75 years, family-owned business. And Strathearn's our first foray into distilling, and we acquired the distillery in 2019. And so we've been distilling our own spirit since then. And this is our first launch, utilising spirit that we acquired and some of our own distillate since acquiring the distillery. So a non-age statement release, but a mighty Highland malt. Our brand strapline is "From Small Acorns, Great Oaks Grow," and we feel it's a real kind of true representation of our whiskey, because we are a small distillery in Perthshire in the Highlands. I I just joined the company actually last August, so I went up there just after joining, and I couldn't go over. Our stills have handles. That's the size of it. So I was quite taken aback, but it truly is a special place where cuts are done by taste and smell and things like that. So it's really kind of hands-on distillation, and a lot of handcrafted is a word used a lot talking about in the whiskey industry and single malts, but it really is a kind of true representation of what Ken and the team do at Strathearn. We joke when we go up and do a shift, we talk about us putting the barley into the hopper, and it's 16 bags, so that's all part of the shift. They've not got a leaderboard yet. I say we've got to get a stopwatch and a leaderboard, Ken, because that's the competitiveness when we go up. So yes, you worked a shift.
Good fun.
It is. But yeah, so delighted to be included this evening, and I'm sure everyone will really enjoy it. It's a lovely dram.
Yeah, well, we've definitely had Douglas Laing drams on before. I'm trying to think.
Yes.
We definitely had some of the. I think we had one of the limited edition scallywags for sure. Jess sticks in the memory. I'm sure we must have had more.
Read the database.
Yeah, well, someone will tell me on the comments in just a second. Yeah, so just keep an eye on that.
Sure. I've actually got. We've got. Talking about the Fèis Festival. We just launched our Big Peak Tropigia, which was our Fèis release. And I've just found a sample of that in my desk, so my evening's getting even better. So yes, I'm sure we have been involved before.
No, definitely, and we're big fans. So yeah, it's super exciting to see the distilling side of the company coming through. Which I guess is a good segue to say hi to Ken.
Well, thanks very much. It's great to be here and to be able to talk about our little distillery. It's small but perfectly formed, and yes, the stills do have handles. It's so we can hold on to them because we get so excited when we see spirit coming through. So it's great, but it's a fantastic dram. I mean, it's I've got some here. Thank you for the little tasting pack, and it's just it's mellow and memorable, and that's why it just floats down the throat so gently.
I mean, Joanne's kind of covered it a bit already, but it is genuinely a tiny distillery, isn't it? It's
very small. 16 bags of malt, so that's 400 kilos in the new money, and that goes into the mash tun, which you can almost put your hands around. So you can certainly put your hands around the stills because we do love them dearly. And we've got 2 wash stills, which is 2 1,000 liter stills, so they're very, very small, and then we have 1,000 liter spirit still, so it's really quite small. Everything's done by hand, as Joanne said. We take the cuts by nose and taste, and we know when to start, we know when to finish, and we'll guard that. Our production is so small that we only make a cask a day. About 210 liters, depending. So it's not a lot. So you add that up throughout the year. Okay, so we'll have a closed period around Christmas and New Year, but it's not a great amount of whiskey, or spirit even. But what it is, it tastes fabulous, and it just says all the lovely things about whiskey. And we're very proud. It's a small team. There's only 4 of us, but I'm really proud of the guys and the gals. They do a fantastic job and make something which is truly gorgeous.
I mean, I'm sure many of our members have been on tours of larger distilleries. If you imagine you're working with equipment you can almost get your arms around, it's quite different.
Well, I mean, it is, and that's part of the charm, I suppose, but it's also part of the excitement. And just we're passionate whiskey geeks, as you do when you're in production. But what we do, we relish it. It's a gift to be able to work there. That's the truth of it. And and it's all done by hand. We the steam valves go on and off. We're using steam coils, so we get a little bit of those Maillard reactions that Bill was talking about, which gives the some of the butterscotch type flavors. We're using a heritage malt variety, Maris Otter, which is a fantastic barley to make anything with. It's just the flavor really comes through. It's a super creamy malty texture that we get in the wort, and that goes into the washbacks. It's a long fermentation, 144 hours, so we get really fruity flavors, and the long slow fermentation gives us a real signature profile, I suppose, of the wash. We still put that into the wash stills, and we take that up to about 25% or so, and then that goes into the spirit still, where we'll end up with, well, what we'll end up with really, but it's all down to manual fine tuning, listening, tasting, watching, and just enjoying it. Actually, to be honest, there's lots happening in the day, but it's certainly it's a great pleasure to be able to do it, and to be able to make something like this is just wow. Great.
Absolutely. I mean, there were some people joking at the beginning in the comments about sort of whiskey being made by AI, and this is very much like the other end. This is hands-on romantic
very
stuff.
Much so, very much so.
Old school, but new school as well. So
obviously, I mean, you've sort of beaten me to the punch on some of my questions. You took over in 2019, and the distillery was founded in 2013.
Yes.
And obviously, was small scale and doing some cool stuff. And obviously, the heritage grains is something the Maris Otter in particular is something you've really doubled down on from what was sort of going on before. And so that's the creaminess that's bringing to the final spirits.
It is.
You were saying before.
I was so surprised, actually. I tasted the whiskey, before it was bottling, and I hadn't tasted it for a while until the week that we launched. And it was actually what got me when I tasted it again was that creaminess that the Maris Otter brings. It was the kind of first kind of thing that I got that not that I'd forgotten about, but it was really kind of surprising how you really get that in the final whiskey, is that creaminess from that barley. It's quite something.
I'm loving this. I started taking a sip. It's like
raw
honey and hobnobs. It's
it is.
What are our members getting, Jess? What's going on in the comments?
Well, I was going to say, to me, it's like pure Maltesers on the nose and like butter, and then when you drink it, suddenly it's like full of peaches, which is crazy. And what is everyone else getting? Stuart McGregor's getting light oak and spice with a peachy background.
Yep.
Deborah Wilcock reminds me of Ovaltine on the nose.
Yeah, so it's like a malty. Yep.
Yeah, the maltiness.
Ovaltine's a malt drink made from malted barley.
Oh, well, snap. Stuart McGregor's lovely mouthfeel, oily, buttery, sweet with spice and butterscotch. Malcolm Tucker, milk chocolate, spiced oak, and green gages and plums on the nose. Real Boinga, I get melons and syrup on the nose. So it's like you've got that richness and that chocolatiness, and everyone's getting all this ripe fruit and lovely estery goodness, I guess, from the fermentation.
Yeah, and it's a 50% ABV. So, it doesn't, you don't, I think it's that way. One of, Douglas Laing, one of our key pillars is non-chill filtered, non-colouring, but also in terms of releasing whiskies at, what we think we'll release at cask strength if we think it's optimal for a certain cask or release that we're doing. But 50%, we really felt like with this was a kind of optimal, gave us an optimal expression of what we want Strathearn to be now and in the future. And I think for 50%, I just think it's a beautiful drinkable dram.
Yeah, it's all about good balance. Because you've got the oakiness, you've got the spice, you've got the fruity characters, and you've got that long finish, which just lasts for forever.
It's like really roasty, toasty in the end.
Yeah, it's just
I feel as well, you can see those different elements as well. The sherry cask influence in the final makeup of this release.
I was about to ask
you get
about that.
Yes, yeah. So a mix of ex-bourbon, virgin, and sherry casks, and I feel you can taste those individual elements almost in terms of what the different casks bring.
Yeah. So what sort of proportion of sherry, or if you can say, are we looking at here? It's obviously not overwhelming, but it's definitely contributing.
No, not at all, not at all. So this release is about 2/3 spirit that we inherited up to about 6-8 years old, and then a third of Douglas Laing distillate. And then there's a mix within that in terms of the different casks make up across those different ages as well. So it's a real kind of mix. There was a lot in the kind of blending of this release to get that style of Strathearn that will be the kind of cornerstone for us moving forward, because this is obviously just the start. So there was a lot went in to make sure this is a representation that we want for the whiskey.
And a lot of, I think I'm right, that a lot of the older stock is in like the 50-litre octave casks. Is that
the Firkins?
Yeah, has that presented any challenges as it gets older, or are you using lots of different casks now?
Lots of different casks. There are still. I just love that word. I love that word. It describes these little. There was the initial owners did do quite a bit in the Firkins, but not really used in this release.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Are we saving them for something special? This is special.
It's going forward. Yeah, I mean, you've already said, this is sort of indicative of the style, but it's all going to be unpeated going forward, I think. Is that right?
Yes, that is. I mean, well, you never say never. You never say
of course,
never. Yeah. You never say never.
Going forward, we're going back to 2019 as well. I'm just
Yes, exactly. You never say never. And one of the things that Douglas Laing kind of prides itself on is that kind of, because of our size and scale and our agility for things. But no, that's non-peated is the style for now, and the kind of core essence of the style.
Yeah. We actually had our resident data man come back with what Douglas Laing we've had in Pour and Sip before, and
love it.
And it's been Ben Rinner's 15-year-old, which we had last January, and the Scallywag, which was 2021, March 2021. Which is, I thought we had a big peat, but maybe not.
I'm sure you must have had a big peat. No. Well, you'll need to have. It's Big Pete's 15th anniversary this year, so you really should have a Big Pete this year for his 15th anniversary.
It's not been done.
That sounds good to me. Yep. Yeah, heard it here first.
Yeah, we've got some other really good tasting notes coming through. Real Boing is getting caramel and milk chocolate with like a spicy milk chocolate on the finish. Ali C, creamy buttery shortbread, blossom honey, stewed plums.
Mm-hmm.
The red fruit doesn't seem to be coming through like for everyone, but it's like there's always like a fruity sort of aspect there. Malcolm Tucker, honey fruit, cinnamon, allspice, a long and lasting, lovely warm finish. And then Clive Hampton, there was a lot going on in this whiskey with lots of subtle flavors, but I can't put my finger on any of them. But it's buttery and peppery with lots of other stuff. Which I feel like if you can't pinpoint one thing, it just means, like you said, like it's really well balanced. Like there's nothing punching you in the face, but it's just like a very well-rounded. Like it's, I'd say it's quite rich and mellow at the same time.
Yes, no, I know what you mean. It does pack a punch, but very drinkable.
It's a velvet boxing glove. Put it that way.
Yes, that's
it's not a boxing glove, but there's certainly plenty to it. But it doesn't hide its character, but it just comes out very softly, and then you realize it, and it builds up, and you just want to pour another glass.
I do keep going back to it. It's very Moorish, yeah.
Would there be a cocktail that you would make with this at all? Like, do you think it would suit anything other than being drunk as it is?
We've not done anything. I mean, for me, I do love an old fashioned.
Same here actually. That's my go-to.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I haven't tried this one with it, but
I know you can imagine making a good old fashioned.
Yeah. Or maybe with the sherry, like a bit of maybe Manhattan as well.
Nice.
I feel like a real chocolatey one always goes well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like quite often when I feel like everyone's drinking Scotch in classic like American cocktails, and it works so well. But we have so many of those suggestions, and I love it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And we also have never had Big Pete. It's official. And
it's official.
It's official that it's going to happen now. Not that it has.
There we go.
Big Pete in the set at some point. Absolutely.
There we go.
Well,
no, we've got a special release coming out at the end of the year, so we'll be able to do that. Obviously, guest. Hello. Where you go?
Hello.
Sorry, apologies.
No, it's all right.
Apologies.
That's okay. We had dogs before.
Have a tasting dram while you're waiting.
I know we probably would, given half the chance.
Yeah, so you mentioned like upcoming releases. So what can you give us any clues what's in the pipeline for Strathearn specifically?
So Strathearn, as we build up, obviously, we don't have a lot of spirit coming out for maturation. So our plan over the next kind of 2 further 3 years is to do annual releases, but very small scale. I mean, there's less than 2,000 cases of this release globally. So it is really, really small scale, and we'll do that again over the next couple of years as we build up our stocks and build up the age of stocks, and eventually, within the next few years, do an aged release. And then we might look at doing, we do have some great casks still of stock that we've acquired and our own stock now, and we might do some single cask releases and things like that as we build up. So it's very much curating this this whiskey and really kind of very much considered with what we do, because as Ken says, a cask a shift. We've got to be careful with what we do, the hard work that those guys put in, and then what we do with it. So yes, building it up over the next 3 years or so before we can get an aged release, which will be really exciting.
Yeah, that's something to look forward to.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I think, did Douglas Laing have some other distilling plans in the works as well?
Oh, lots of opportunities post-COVID. So yes, I think getting into distillation has always been an ambition of the business. We've got our own bottling plant now in Glasgow as well, and it's I think we'll be seeing more from us in the distilling front, I'm sure.
I mean, yes, please, given this is the first dram.
Yes, absolutely.
I think you've got the bottle there as well, Ken.
I do, yes.
Who's watching but hasn't seen it. It's rather smart. Yeah.
It is. I can take it out.
Yes. We actually, in my team, we've got our own head of creative, Claire, that works internally, and Claire actually designed the bottle and the label. So
is that showing back to front or front to back? I can't really tell.
It's good.
The label's the wrong way around, but that bottle looks amazing. It's so
like the acorn.
There's a wee acorn on the top there, because our strap line is from small acorns great oaks grow. So it's and passion of mine actually personally is growing small oak trees. I grow about 80 to 90 oaks every year from the acorns that fall out the window. There's a huge oak tree, and every year I get plenty of acorns. So
I mean, Ken, you don't want to tell somebody in marketing this. This is new news to me. I mean, I feel like a whole PR campaign coming in the back of this. Ken's oak trees. I love it.
But yes. And the thing is, an acorn, tiny little thing, but it'll take, what they say an oak tree takes 300 years to grow and 300 years to die. So you're talking 600 years. That's quite a long time. I'm not growing them for me. I'm growing them for future generations. But it's a wonderful, what you can do with oak casks is incredible. And the flavors you get from oak is wonderful. Absolutely. Yeah. But you've got to have a good spirit, and hopefully we've got the good spirit. So
Absolutely.
I feel like there needs to be some sort of plan in place for your oaks to like age the whiskey in some way
for generations to come. That's
Yeah.
it. Well, that's very much suits a family-owned business, that philosophy, in terms of setting down roots for future generations. So that's what we could put in place now, Ken.
Not the best. That's it.
Right, well, this was absolutely delicious. And thank you so much for joining us to enjoy it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jake. Thanks, Jess, and thank you to Master of Malt. Brilliant to be able to share our wonderful whiskey with you. Thank you very much.
It is.
Thank you for making it.
Thank you. Cheers.
What a different dram. That was like,
yep.
I feel like both very considered whiskies, but like so different.
Yes.
I love getting the full story behind everything as well.
We've still got one to come.
I know. I'm excited for this.
Let's bring in Norman because
he's been waiting.
Introduce a bit of peat, but a third and very different whiskey again.
Good evening.
Oh no, we can't hear you.
Oh, is that better?
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yes, perfect. Sorry, I think I jumped the gun there.
Okay. Good evening. How are you? Thank you for having me on.
Oh, no worries. Thanks for coming. Yeah, I'm really good. 2 whiskeys down, but can't wait for this one. Where are you coming to us from today?
I'm currently broadcasting from the Isle of Haarach, off the northwest coast of Scotland. So, as I explained it when I was in Germany a couple of weeks ago, most people know where Talisker on the Isle of Skye is. So, if you get to Talisker Distillery in the Isle of Skye, just hang a left and keep going, and you'll find the Isle of Haarach eventually. So, we're about an hour and 40 minutes by ferry west of the Isle of Skye.
Wow.
So, our distillery opened in 2014, so we're approaching our 10th anniversary, which is quite incredible.
Wow.
Our first release was an ultra premium London dry gin that carries our island name, Isle of Haarach Gin, which has done wonders for us, spreading the gospel of Haarach, as it were, that we've creating a reputation for distilling a world-class spirit with the knowledge that we're laying down spirit every day or 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, for the coming release of the Hearach, which is a rather difficult to pronounce Scottish Gaelic word meaning someone from the island of Haarach. So I am a Hearach. There's not many of us left. There's less than 2,000 souls in the last census on Haarach. So the distillery is like a beacon of hope on the island to bring people back from the mainland to start families and have gainful employment. It certainly worked for me. So I lived in Glasgow for 15 years. No previous distilling experience apart from enjoying a dram or two now and again. I moved home in 2011 after I got married. We started a family to do our little bit to try and nudge those numbers up a wee bit. And the distillery has enabled us to remain living on the island of Haarach, which is a spectacular location, very popular with tourists, quite remote, but with the advent of modern technologies such as 4G and decent internet connection, it's the world's a smaller place than it used to be. So it's a very exciting time to be involved at the beginning of a distillery, the launch of a distillery, its first whiskey. It was a very exciting time last December, and we're extremely proud of the spirit we're making, and we're delighted to be able to share it to everyone with everyone tonight.
Yeah, it must be so funny as well, because I feel like as a distiller or as anyone working on the distillery side of things, like it's so new to everyone else when you launch it, but you've obviously been thinking about it for years beforehand as well.
Yeah, it's a long time in the making. Building a distillery on the Isle of Haarach is not an easy thing to do. Everything has to come in by sea. If you go on our website and have a look at some of our pictures, you'll see there's not a massive amount of vegetation growing anything more than knee high. Lots of rock, lots of mountains, lots of water, which is very important for whiskey. We have some of the softest water in Scotland, which is coming down off a loch over the hardest rocks in Scotland. So it doesn't pick up any minerals from the rock. It's a very soft water, which is ideal for making whiskey. It just adds to our Hebridean imprint on the DNA of our whiskey. One of the most important ingredients of our whiskey is time. Nothing happens on the Hebrides in a great hurry. And our whiskey is one of those things. As I say, we're almost 10 years old, and we've been able to wait almost 9 years before releasing our first spirit last year. Again, as Bill said earlier on about transparency, our website's very similar. We don't have an age statement at the moment. The youngest spirit in our current batches is 4 years old, which is the pheno portion of it, which is a very small percentage, but it's a spirit that tastes older than its years. It's very similar to Strathearn in that we're bigger than them in terms of our capacity. We're somewhere around about the region of 200,000 litres of original litres of alcohol a year. We distill and mash 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 shifts. So we can do about 4,500, 4,600 litres a week with 10 mashes. We've got a 1.2 tonne mash tun, 8 wooden washbacks, which require a little bit of more care and attention than stainless steel ones. But we're of the same opinion as Bill earlier on, that it's just a little bit of flavour comes from very many different sources. So our water is one, our climate is one, our stills are one, our wooden washbacks, we've got an excellent wood policy. We take the time to do things. Nothing's rushed. Everything is done on the island. From bottling, everything's bottled on the island. Our maturation is done on the island. It's very expensive to build whiskey maturation warehouses here, but we've done it. They mature in a spectacular location 2 miles north of the distillery in a village called Ardhazig, which the warehouses couldn't be any closer to the sea, and a stunning location. We could be easier, cheaper if we shipped it to the mainland in tanker and got it maturing in a bonded warehouse in the central belt, but then we would lose some of the island character. And we're so proud of our spirit, we guard it very jealously, and we don't want to trust it to anybody else. We want to look after it all to ourselves until we send it out around the world. So it's been an amazingly exciting time, and it's culminated in the release of this Hearach that you're having at the moment.
So did you know how long you were going to sit on the whiskey for, or were you just sort of testing it and waiting and seeing when it obviously hit that sweet spot?
We always knew we weren't going to rush things. The gin was phenomenally successful to begin with, so you can afford to be more patient when there is cash coming in the door. The business plan for the gin when we started was to sell 12,000 bottles a year. That would mean distilling once a month. We are sometimes making 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 bottles a week. So just before we launched our Hearach last September, our small 300 litre gin still had produced just over 1 million bottles. So that took the pressure off slightly, but we were never going to launch it until it was ready. We've always been very confident in the quality of our new make spirit. It's always been very well received, quite accessible. There's the way that's produced. We have a good mixture of long and short fermentations. We only produce Monday to Friday. On the island, there's not many businesses that are open on a Sunday, so we close down on a Friday night, do a chemical clean, make sure everything's spick and span. We close the doors for the weekend, and the weekend is family time. We start up again on the Monday morning, so we have 10 mashes. So 6 of our mashes are long fermentations of 120 hours, and 4 of our mashes are short fermentations of circa 70 hours. So longer than the average. It gives a good combination of long fermentations, as we alluded to earlier on, gives you nice fruity notes, stewed apple, pear, some tropical notes. Our distillation times are very slow, as you can imagine. Nothing is rushed in the Hebrides. So on spirit, we aim to be collecting spirit for 4 hours. And as similar to Strathearn, when we're going on spirit in the morning, a lot of distilleries will be able to judge the starting of collection of spirit by the ringing of a bell. They'll have it timed. We've never been able to work that out. So we don't taste our spirit in the morning, but we reduce it to about 20% to take constant samples. And we do a combination of clarity, a misting test, and a nosing. So we wait for it to get not totally clear, slightly on the opaque side. And we're looking for a combination of slight hint of peat, but some tropical notes to come through at the same time. And once we've got the two balanced, we start collecting spirit. We slow things down. We try and collect the spirit for 4 hours, and we stop collecting the spirit at 62%. That's the easy bit, because that never changes. But there's 5 distillers over the 2 shifts, so everyone's nose is slightly different. But it's the most one of the most hands-on part of the job. It's very important, very enjoyable, but can be quite stressful. You don't want to get it wrong.
Yeah, I mean, can it turn quite quickly? You know, if you miss that. Obviously,
I wouldn't say turn, but you are right. There's a narrow window of opportunity, and if you've missed it, you've missed it. It'll never disappear completely. You'll get it in the next distillation, but we're not the biggest producer, so we want to get it right more often than not. And you're always trying for consistency, which is difficult, obviously, with batch distillation, especially a distillery of our size. But it's very satisfying. It's a nice part of the job, nice part of the day, first thing in the morning. It's a nice thing to do.
I feel like obviously long fermentations have been touched on a lot today, which is super interesting. But could you talk me through like a long distillation? Like, what does that mean? What does that add to the whiskey?
The long distillation, again, it's to enhance the amount of time that your distillate spends in contact with copper. So copper, as you know, takes out impurities. Some distilleries want impurities in, because some impurities have flavor profiles they find desirable for their spirit. But the Hearach is quite a refined, light spirit. It's very fruity. We get a lot of tropical notes in our long fermentations. We manage to keep hold of them in the distillation. You can create flavors in one part of the process, and then you can lose them. We try to not rush things, do things slowly, get it right more often than not. And we get the same flavor profiles coming all the way through, out of the mash tun, into the washback, out of the washback, into the distillate, out of the distillate, into the cask. New make spirit so there's a commonality all the way through that we never lose, and that's very important to us. If you wanted to make more volume, obviously you would increase the speed of your distillation. You would have entirely 70-hour fermentation, so we could produce more. It's not going to happen, because it will change the character of our spirit, which the Isle of Hares is a part of a burgeoning new whisky region of Scotland, the Hebridean trail of distilleries that are appearing along the coastal edges of Scotland, and we're not beholden to any sort of past reputation. For a lot of people thought, because we were by the sea on an island, that we'd be replicating the Islay style, but that wasn't what we wanted to do. We wanted to create a style all of our own. So there is a hint of peat smoke, because peat smoke in a Hebridean island goes hand in hand with heating houses and crofts and cottages over generations, but it's a very subtle peating note. Our peating level is very low, and we ask our maltsters to give us a very narrow specification, which they don't particularly enjoy doing. But it's between 12 and 15 parts per million. So that's a low to begin with, and it's also a very narrow band. But they do it for us. They don't do it probably to make mega bucks, because we don't buy a massive amount of them, because we're not the biggest in the world. But they like what we do. They like our ethos. They like our reason why we're here, which is to try and regenerate the population of an island, as well as producing world-class spirit and providing employment and creating a reputation, which will enhance the viability of the Hebrides as a living location all around the world. But nothing is rushed. I don't rush things. I'm quite a laid-back character. It's a Hebridean trait in particular, and I think it's a Hares trait. So it would be remiss of us to start rushing things when it's not part of our DNA.
It's worked so far.
We're very pleased with it. Our wood policy is very good as well. None of us are doing anything really magnificently different from everybody else, but every distillery has its signature style. Our wood policy is excellent. So it's all first fill at the moment. Bourbon cask, we use Buffalo Trace, Heaven Hill, Woodford Reserve in the mix. We have 2 sherry butts sourced from excellent bodega in Spain. We've got Oloroso, and one of the key parts of it is our ex-Fino sherry butts.
Okay.
Fino is a very unusual sherry to use in whiskey maturation. It's not quite. It's more of a nutty sort of flavour you get from it.
Kind of savoury. Does it have like a sort of savoury aspect to it?
Very, very slightly. Yeah, it's not quite as spicy and fruity and Christmassy as Oloroso and more traditional sherries are. It's a very small percentage of the Hearach recipe. If you go on our website, every batch has a unique number, and you can see, as we were mentioned earlier on, full transparency, the recipe that goes into the batches. It's only 4%, but it's without that 4%, it's a different character of whiskey. So it's extremely important to us. We don't do any finishing. If our spirit has been in a sherry butt, it's spent its entire life in a sherry butt. It's been there 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. As I say, that at the moment, the youngest part of our recipe is the 4-year-old Fino, which is a very small percentage, but it's absolutely crucial to the recipe. The maturation on the island is also vitally important to us. We've got a very temperate climate here. I mean, there's all sorts of theories about where whiskey matures best. If it's got big swings in temperatures, I'm not going to say ours is right or wrong, or anybody else's is right or wrong, but it's the way ours matures. Our climate is very temperate from one end of the year to the other. We don't have massive temperature swings, so it's quite an even temperature, which for us is absolutely perfect for our spirit, and our spirit reacts very well with our wood. Prior to bottling, which we do here on the island, we do a stage which has kind of fallen out of fashion slightly, called marrying, whereby rather than get our recipe, which is a ratio of casks that we've mentioned before at certain ages, and then mixing them in a blending vat and reducing straight to bottling strength and putting it in a bottle, what we do is we mix everything together, reduce it to 48%, take it out of the blending vat, and put them into spent sherry butts that we've purchased that are flavour neutral. And this stage is called marrying. So there's not many distilleries that do it nowadays. One that does, and you might have heard of it, it's quite successful, is Mackay. They do it. So our marrying is bare minimum 12 weeks, where literally all the spirit does is it sits in these flavour neutral sherry butts and just rests and gets to know each other. Again, nothing's hurried. This would be a lot easier if we didn't do this. We'd get more stuff on the market much quicker, but we've found that it rounds off the flavour of a very subtle spirit. It rounds it off. It makes it more rounded. It's improved the mouth feel. It's improved the finish. So it's got a very long finish, and we put that down partially to the marrying process. It's bottled at 46% ABV because we don't chill filter. There's no caramel colouring. Alcohol carries flavour. So it's a subtle but very sure of itself dram, and we're absolutely delighted with the way it's developing.
It is so delicious.
The beginning of our journey, and there is batch variation, flavour variation between batches, which was never intentional, but each batch does have a subtle difference, and they're evolving as we get higher up into the releases. And one of the theories we have is that although the sherry butts we purchased are flavour neutral, they are in part, our spirit is leaving a little bit of its character behind every time we rotate through the marrying process. So we don't think this marrying process has reached equilibrium yet. So, but it makes a massive difference to our spirit. It's a lot of extra work and more time, as I said, but it's, again, going back to the earlier comment about little tick boxes of flavour all combined to make a spirit that's worthy of our need.
Well, I want to jump in with some comments, but I don't want
to
interrupt because it's all so interesting.
I have a habit of rambling once I start. I forget to stop.
No, that's literally why that's what we need. No one wants to hear me.
So obviously people were getting sort of that peat initially. Stuart's saying that he's actually been to the distillery. Amazing location, amazing gin, amazing whiskey. Also got to taste the new make. Sounds like I had a great time. Then we have people commenting on that, a bit of a theme with the extended fermentation. Certainly getting more of these fruit notes coming through the longer I spend with this one. We have, that was a good one I saw before. Alex Battersby was saying they're usually not a fan of, sort of peat and smoke, but it really suits this dram quite well. I think it is that, that's the lower ppm, but also that balance with the fruits is.
Yeah, I mean, personally for me, I don't get a massive amount of smoke at full strength, but if I add a little bit of water, I find a tiny little water releases the smoke more. Again, everyone's palate is different, but if he appreciates the smoke, then I would recommend just a tiny dash of water, and I find it releases the smoke a bit more. But yeah, we never wanted to have an overly smoky, peaty whiskey, but it is there, and it's just it's another layer of complexity that we feel adds to the overall package.
No, definitely.
We have so many questions coming through as well.
I know, I'm just seeing that as well. Yeah,
it had to be grilled.
Clotted cream, honey, apple. There's Stuart saying lovely whiskey, 5 out of 5. So high praise there.
The clotted cream is quite often as well when we do weekly new make spirits. So as I mentioned earlier on about flavors carrying through, new clotted cream and warm leather is one I get quite a lot as a finish on the new makes, and to have someone recognizing that in the final bottle is fantastic, because we don't want to lose any flavor. We want to capture all the flavors we've created. So top marks for the gentleman for that find.
Yeah. We have some batch questions, which might, I don't know whether you'll be able to. Well, one of them sort of you're not going to be able to answer, but I will be possibly able to answer afterwards. Which is they've got another batch that they're comparing with, and would like to know the exact batch of this. Which I don't know off the top of my head, but I should be able to find out. I'll put that on the website for people.
Yep.
Then Jeremy Anderson's got a question about their batch of kelp gin they've got a bottle of.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got a bottle they say says first release, then it's got HE 0002 2023. And they're asking, is that the first ever batch?
No, we've been selling gin since 2000 and.
I was about to say,
yeah. So the HE will be whiskey. So what was the number again? Sorry.
Okay. So yeah, HE 00002 2023.
That's batch 2 of the Hearach whiskey.
Sure, makes sense. So I think that was two things in one comment, wasn't
it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, a big fan of the kelp, and I've also got the bottle. Yeah. Oh goodness, there's loads of questions below. Okay. Stuart McGregor saying, have you matured any casks off the island to see the effective locality?
No.
I'm guessing no, because that's kind of the whole point, right?
That's a big no. That would
just to taste it and be like, that's worse.
Yeah.
We do that again.
And we are too jealous of our spirit to let it leave the island until it goes in a bottle. So no, big no.
Malcolm Tucker's interested to know how exposed the distillery warehouses are to the Atlantic winds.
Very. Most of Hares is exposed to the wind, but Ardhazic is on the west coast. So as you can appreciate, the west coast of Northwest Highland, Western Isle, is particularly exposed. So it's a very good point, because lots of traditionally bonded warehouses are quite low, squat buildings. You don't want a great throughput of air. They don't like air changes. So yeah, it's a very good question. The answer is very exposed, and that will contribute to the unique maturation profile. Absolutely.
And then Steve Coleman Williams got a question about kind of the average temperatures, and they've looked it up, and they say according to their quick research, it never drops below 5 degrees. And they're saying, is that right? It's colder here in the south of England.
Almost never. But the average temperature here always feels a lot hotter. Like 15 degrees in Hares feels like 25 everywhere else.
Really? I would have thought that it'd be breezy all the time, and it would be the opposite.
Yeah, it is breezy quite often. Yeah, the distillery is quite sheltered. The distillery is in a village called Tarbert, which is in a wee isthmus, so it's very, very sheltered from the wind. It's the first thing you'll see as you come off the ferry from the Isle of Skye. We're right opposite the ferry terminal, but the warehouses are not in that category. They're a wilder part of the island.
And Stuart's following up on his distillation, his maturations of on and off the island. he's saying, how do we know what the taste is due to the location? I guess this is like a broader question about whiskey, right?
Yeah,
so,
well, it's not entirely
by the ocean, and
it's not entirely due to it. It's just a small flavor tick box. Even within, if we replicated our maturation warehouse 10 times over in a different location, you could put 1,000 casks in the maturation warehouse at exactly the same time, and the cask that's sitting in the bottom left and the cask that are sitting in the top right corner of our warehouse will mature very slightly differently. So there is, regardless of location, it is going to be, you're never going to get uniformity in the same building. So location will definitely, he is right. Yeah, if we matured it somewhere else, they would be slightly different, but just because we mature on the island doesn't mean to say we get 1,000 casks that are exactly the same. Every cask will have their own character, but it's just part of our,
I mean,
part of our recipe, essentially.
It's mysterious, isn't it?
No, I mean, it can be a massive difference, but it's again little bits of flavor all work together to the final product.
An art form, not a science.
Yeah, yes, certainly, absolutely, yes. I'm not going to pretend I have all the answers.
I don't want all the answers.
No, it's sometimes you're better off not knowing. As long as you're enjoying your dram, that's the most important thing.
Exactly. I mean, everyone is like loving this. I think a few people have already bought a bottle.
Yep.
So that's really exciting.
I mean, it's exceptionally smooth. It's very Moorish, which is a silly thing to say, but it is, and it's very refined. It's very subtle. It's not an in-your-face dram. When we launched the whiskey last September, we had lots of friends and family up, and not everyone in Scotland, it's not compulsory for everyone in Scotland to like whiskey. So I had lots of family members up who don't drink whiskey as a rule, but they tried this on the launch for the first time, and they were amazed at how accessible it was. It rewards patience as well. As I say, adding water changes the profile, but it's a very accessible dram. And as I say, we're at the beginning of our journey, so we've still got many years of maturation ahead of us to see how it transforms. And as I mentioned, our marrying process we think is still evolving. So it's an exciting time, but it's a lovely, lovely dram.
It is, right?
But I would say that.
Yeah, I was a little bit worried about which order to put these in, and this one's got peat, but is it going to be is the subtlety going to be lost putting it last? But I think it's shown really well. It's a really lovely dram. Yeah.
Thank you.
This is like the most dessert-like of the drams, I feel. So
you're not the first person to have said that. Yeah. So it's amazing. People think there's a great mystique about whiskey tasting and whiskey sensory perception, and most people pick up most of the things most of the time, and everyone's nose is different. So just because I get a smell out of a whiskey and somebody else doesn't mean to say that they or I are wrong. I'll give you an example of the gin. When I'm nosing our gin for spirit quality, I am very good at picking up citrus notes, but I'm not so good at maybe the more green side of it. But that's just my palate and my nose. So everyone's different, and there's no such thing as a wrong. If someone's smelling elderflower in their dram and it's not written on the side of the box, it doesn't mean to say you're wrong. There are many hundreds and thousands of flavors in this dram that are there, but no one will ever smell. Somebody mentioned licorice early on. We through doing testing a couple of years ago for a more heavily peated version, we were sampling at 67%, which we don't normally do. Out of the still, and for a couple of minutes a very strong, very defined licorice note appeared that I'd never noticed before, and then it vanished. And it's not something you really get in the spirit, but it's gone into the cask, it's there, and it's contributing to the overall flavour. We sometimes now get it in the new make spirit, but I don't think I've ever smelt it in the bottle as yet. But there's many, many flavours that are in the spirit that contribute to what you're experiencing on the nose and in the palate that you may never necessarily pick up, but they're all building blocks that are creating the spirit that you're seeing in front of you.
Yeah, that's so wonderfully put, and I feel like it's also so great to hear from a master distiller like that. There's no wrong tasting note, and just like taste it how you like it, and your palate's yours.
Can I record you saying master distiller again? So I can... I've never been called that. That's one of the nicest things I've ever said.
Oh, no?
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Just do it.
Fantastic. Malcolm saying, if only I hadn't finished my dram, I could have tried it with water. They're going to water bottles, so they can do it later. It's all good. Right, shall we blast through these other two drams, Jess?
Yes, let's do that, and then hopefully we can have everyone back for obviously the most fun part of the night, where we make everyone choose their favourite dram.
Yep. So yeah, if you're able to hang around, Norman, we'll see you shortly.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That was another cracking dram. I love all three of these. I'm having fun tonight, Jess.
I really am. Yes, so we obviously have 2 more drams in the set. We've had, some fairly 50% ABV tonight. So yes, we are going to run through these, but you do not have to drink them just yet. So first one, we are staying in Scotland again, and it's Glenlossie, independently bottled by Murray McDavid, which is an independent bottler founded 30 years ago. So they're all about maturing whiskey in wine casks, and that's something you don't see super often, and certainly not with a Glenlossie, because that is quite a rare whiskey. I think Murray McDavid haven't actually bottled a Glenlossie for 17 years until this year.
That's mad, isn't it? Yeah,
crazy. So I love that we got our hands on it. That's amazing. And also what's quite special is that Glenlossie is quite often used in blends. Notably Hague, I think. I'm not sure if it's using that anymore.
I think so. I think it's using lots of other things as well. But yeah, historically, that's what's related to. Yeah,
because it's got this lovely grassy, light, but sort of slightly oily character, which is thanks to purifiers on the stills. So you might have had Glenlossie before, but not in its single malt form. So this is a really lovely chance to try that. And yeah, it's got that tropical fruit, that grassiness, sort of like oily citrus peels and things like that. So yeah, and it's at 50% as well. So I think that'll be a lovely light, but sort of, powerful dram. And then to finish, Jake, I believe you backseat a Redbreast.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just having a look at some of the comments and questions coming through. Yes, so the final dram in the box is one of my favourite whiskies. Well, certainly Redbreast is one of my favourite whiskies in general. So it's an Irish single pot still, which I'm sure we've had a few on. I think we had a Jameson one in March. But yeah, it's essentially the same distillery. It's Middleton, Irish distillers, that create Redbreast that also make Jameson. But while Jameson's usually a blend, I think the one we had in March was actually a single pot still, unusually for Jameson.
I don't think I was there for that one.
Yeah. But yeah, Redbreast is kind of in many ways, the kind of quintessential single pot still. Although these days there's been such an explosion and there's so much range now in Irish whiskey, so much exciting stuff going on. That lots of people are,
What is quintessential?
Yeah, exactly, right? So it's easy to sort of write the history when you're the one company that's still operating. So lots of people looked back in the history books and said, well, hold on a minute, there was loads of other grains in that other recipes that people were doing back in history, and we should have more oats, and which is I'm going on a single pot Irish single pot still rant here, aren't I? The rules are you have to have at least 30% malted barley and at least 30% unmalted barley, and up to 5% other grains. And there's some people that want to increase that because historically there were lots more used. Actually, Redbreast is only made with barley, so it's unmalted and malted, but it's the unmalted element which is different to Scotch single malts or single malts made anywhere else. And that brings spicy, creamy, sort of cereal notes and this silky mouthfeel that it's quite unique. And also sherry casks, yummy sherry casks.
Also sherry casks.
Yeah. It uses bourbon and sherry casks, but yeah, there's a healthy sherry component. But this is also cask strength of 57%, so tread lightly.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe have this one at the end.
But yeah, it's a banger. It's a classic. So yeah, enjoy.
It might be the first time someone's described a whiskey as a banger on and I'm here for it.
I think it was, appropriately done.
Yeah, done with absolute grace and elegance, actually.
Cool. So, shall we bring our guests back and ask? It's usually Andy who asks the question, isn't it? But...
No, I think he usually palms off to me.
Does he palm off to you now?
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, go and just ask them all." So, yes, for anyone who hasn't attended a live tasting before, this is the part where you have to pick your favourite from the night and tell us, and we tally it up and we crown the winner. And everyone promises that they won't be offended if you don't choose their whiskey. Speaking on behalf of the people who made them. So yes, ask away. And while we wait for everyone to come in with their votes, it would be great to hear from you two. Any great whiskies that you've tried recently that aren't your own?
Oh, that's a good one.
And not each other's either.
I had some Ben Rennes 12-year-old that was finished in a red wine cask. That was quite interesting. That was
Nice.
I enjoyed that very much, actually.
Was that a sample or a legit release?
No, it's a legit. If I can say it properly, yes, it was a real one. Yes, yeah, it was Blair Castle, up at Blair Athol, near Lochry. I'm an Athol Highlander for my sins, and the castle has introduced that as their house whiskey. So we had that at the Athol gathering a couple of weeks ago, and I was very impressed by that.
Great answer. That didn't take you long at all either.
I was flapping a wee bit there, but actually, luckily for me, last weekend I had a sample of a Swedish whiskey. Mack, it's called. M-A-C-K, I believe. And that's all I know about it. It was in a clear glass. I don't know what age statement it was, but it was absolutely delicious. Quite malty. Probably not too old, but definitely worth checking out. Very, very nice.
I was out at the Gothenburg Beer and Whiskey Festival probably about 10 years ago, and like yourself, Norman, out in Germany, the knowledge of whiskey enthusiasts was incredible.
Yeah.
They knew what angle the line arm was at, and they even knew what it was. And
yeah, exactly. I still don't know what angle my line arm was at. I can't find it on any of the drawings. So, yeah.
Look at it.
I don't have the number, unfortunately. I've had to look at our drawings, but I don't even know that. I'm still trying to find it out. But yeah, it's amazing. It's just people get so enthusiastic about it, which is great for us people who make it and the industry as a whole. It's amazing to see how passionate people are about it. And going back to your comment about people getting offended about not liking the whiskey, I mean, whiskey is so different and there's so much variation within it that not everyone is going to like all the whiskies. And it's just great that there's so many different ones to try. I'm definitely going to be trying a Strathearn if I can ever get my hands on one. I was just looking at the website and it's sold out, so I'll have to be patient. But,
I'll get some next time I'm up in Harouts, don't
you? But yeah, there's enough choice for everyone, and it's a really exciting time to be involved. So yeah, absolutely.
I think that's the Mac is oh god, I'm gonna say it wrong now. Is it Macmurra?
Macmurra. I think it's Macmurra.
Yeah. We've had a few of those in Portsmouth actually. I think
they do quite fun stuff with like lingonberry casks and things, don't they? Like they use like a lot of Swedish oak and all that kind of stuff.
It was very nice. It was very, very, very tasty.
I do like the Scandi whiskey, has to be said.
Yeah. Well, there was an Icelandic one mentioned in the comments earlier.
All right.
I think in relation to the challenges of making whiskey in slightly far-flung places. But it gets brought up a few times in Portsmouth because I think people just like to bring up the fact that they do a sheep dung smoked whiskey.
Yeah. Well, we leave that to them, I think.
Use what fuel you have, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right, Jake, it's time to tally. People have been coming in hot.
Yeah. Okay, so need to find the beginning.
Well, I can see right now with Stuart McGregor saying it's a really great box tonight, and I 100% agree.
Yep. We've got Jeremy Anderson, the Hearach, exceptional box. Stuart McGregor as well, really good box. Hearach, the winner for them. Strathearn next. Steve Howdy Doody had the Redbreast. He says that was his. People saying, the question.
They know.
Simon really loved the Strathearn. Ali for him. Then they've got the Hearach, Redbreast and Strathearn. Steve Hyde really enjoyed the box. Even a good smoky one. So yeah, another usual not fan of the peated whiskies one over there. Pexman, Hearach #1 for them. Lots of love for the Hearach, but also there's another one. Malcolm's got Strathearn up there as well. So there you go. Lucky Bill left, or maybe they're just being polite.
No, it's hard going first.
Absolutely.
No, other people talk about McMurrough as well. Yeah, Dave Norcross, Strathearn was their favourite.
Oh, Steve Corn Williams, the Haute Glace nearly pipped it, but Hearach just about wins.
It's close.
Yeah. I'm a sucker for a bit of peat, they say. Alex Batsby say they've tried 4 whiskies tonight and awarded 19 stars so far, so they think that's a record.
out of 4 each.
Yeah.
That's so great. And David wouldn't be upset if somebody gave him any of the 5 whiskies from the box. So
all delicious.
Everyone's a winner.
Nice. So Jess, what's your whiskey that you've tried?
Gosh, I have to be honest. I've been drinking a lot of tequila, which I know is not the right answer. But I feel like because I know I have this, I just let pour and sip do the hard work for me.
Why wouldn't you? Yeah, absolutely. And actually, last few weeks we've had a few tequila notes, so we need an expert agave angle.
I think the Haute Glace had a bit of tequila taste, didn't it? Yes, just notes, which is interesting.
Grassy freshness. I'm so sorry. That's a terrible answer. I feel like you have a much better one, Jake.
Well, we do a top 10 whiskies on Master of Malt now that all the staff sort of have ideas about, and I put a Redbreast forward for that this month. So as well as chatting about Redbreast here, but I mean, new discoveries are always the most fun thing. And I think everything that we've, the 3 whiskies we've tasted tonight are just fantastic. I really loved all of them. So
yeah, I haven't finished all of them, and I'm going to go back to them. I've had some self-restraint, which is unusual.
It's only Thursday after all.
That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Thursday's the official start to the weekend, so
exactly.
And he on his cup of tea. I'm on the early shift tomorrow morning, so 5 o'clock start. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We'll be thinking of you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Fantastic to hear from both of you and to enjoy these whiskies with you. Thank you, Jess.
Thank you, Jake, and thank you, Bill, who is not here anymore.
No, it was great to be part of it, and thanks, Norman, for the great chat about.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody. Delighted to be involved. Thank you. Hopefully, not the last time we'll be here. Thank you.
Definitely not. Great. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.